All right, I have here a book, The Local Church, by Dr. Peter S. Ruckman. We're going to go to page 37. Let me show you here. Page 37. Down here. Christians forget that once you put up a building, you are anti-New Testament. Ruckman's words, not mine. There are no buildings in the New Testament. Once you do this, you are in the state area, and you needn't pretend that you are not, for you are. The words of Peter Ruckman, not me. And some of you people will get all upset at me. What do you think about Ruckman? Well, what about Ruckman? Like, I'm going to somehow say, oh yes, well, Dr. Ruckman told me that church buildings are okay, so I'm just going to throw out my King James Bible and I'm just going to listen to Peter Ruckman. All right. Ruckman never taught that he was the standard. He always taught that this book is the standard. And that's why for years and years and years I've followed Dr. Ruckman's ministry, and I've recommended him, and I will continue to recommend him. I'm not like some of the baby Christians out there that would say, Ruckman's wrong here and here and here, so throw him all out. When you study under the guy and you watch a lot of his stuff and everything else, you see the blessings that God has bestowed upon the man in terms of teaching the Bible. You realize this guy is a very unique, very rare teacher of the Word of God. Dr. Ruckman is a phenomenal preacher and teacher, and you don't throw a guy like that out. If he was not of God, there would have been a whole lot more errors that he would have come up with. It's just as simple as that. And I believe a lot of the problems in Ruckman's personal life, a lot of the problems with other things like that, was because he knowingly was disobeying the New Testament. And I'm going to show you some things in here today, and some of the brethren are probably going to be like, well, I don't see how I can be saved saying that stuff like that. There are all sorts of areas that you can compromise in as a Christian, and when you do, God will just whip you and beat you, and you will have health problems, you will have financial problems, you will have marriage problems, you will have all kinds of problems. And we're going to see he knows about it, and he admits it. Okay, there he is with his little pulpit and his Bible that he doesn't really believe is God's perfect word. Because if he did, he wouldn't have a church building. But this here, absolutely. You're right with God if you're doing this. If you're doing this over here, you're not right with God. And if you really, really are into that whole thing, you're lost. I'm just going to tell you, if you're a militant defender of the whole church building thing and whatever else, you're lost. You're on your way to hell.
You saw in Ruckman's book where he quotes Ruckman stating, Christians forget that once you put up a building, you are anti-New Testament. There are no buildings in the New Testament. And you heard what Denlinger said, as you see here, as printed out in his comment. And you don't throw a guy like that out? So he still believes Ruckman was saved and probably one of the best Bible teachers in history. But later in this video, he says this. And then later on in the same video. So from the first video, he exalts Ruckman like an idol, concluding that we shouldn't throw him out, and we still should recommend his stuff because he believes he was one of the best quote-unquote saved Bible teachers in history. But in the later video, he concludes that anybody who accepts and supports church buildings is lost and on their way to hell. Talk about a self-contradicting egomaniac. What about that? Well, if Denlinger is going to be consistent with this thinking, then he has to conclude that Ruckman was a lost man, not right with God, and was going to hell. Because he supported church buildings. Will Denlinger do that? Absolutely not. He's a hypocrite.